Hormones are a molecule, a macromolecule, that is technically a lipid. It's technically a fat. Here you can see a lot of important glands within the endocrine system. A lot of these might sound familiar. Things like the adrenal gland produces something called adrenaline, and that's something you've probably heard of. The pancreas and the kidneys, these are important in some systems we've already talked about. And the testes and ovaries are important in reproduction. The pituitary gland sits at the base of the brain just above the brainstem. It's attached to the hypothalamus. The posterior lobe stores and releases oxytocin, an antidiuretic hormone produced by the hypothalamus. The anterior lobe responds to hormones produced by the hypothalamus by producing its own hormones, most of which regulate other hormone-producing glands. The anterior pituitary produces 6 hormones: growth hormone, prolactin, thyroid-stimulating hormone, adrenocorticotropic hormone, follicle-stimulating hormone, and luteinizing hormone. Growth hormone stimulates cellular activities like protein synthesis that promote growth. Prolactin stimulates the production of milk by the mammillary glands. Other hormones produced by the anterior pituitary regulate the production of hormones by other endocrine tissues. The posterior pituitary is significantly different in structure from the anterior pituitary. It's part of the brain, extending down from the hypothalamus, and contains mostly nerve fibers that extend from the hypothalamus to the posterior pituitary. The thyroid gland is located in the neck, just below the larynx in front of the trachea. It's a butterfly-shaped gland with 2 lobes that are connected. The thyroid follicle cells synthesize the hormone thyroxine, which is also known as T4 because it contains 4 atoms of iodine, and triiodothyronine, also known as T3 because it contains 3 atoms of iodine. T3 and T4 are released by the thyroid in response to thyroid-stimulating hormone produced by the anterior pituitary, and both T3 and T4 have the effect of stimulating metabolic activity in the body and increasing energy use. A third hormone, calcitonin, is also produced by the thyroid. Calcitonin is released in response to rising calcium ion concentrations in the blood and has an effect of reducing those levels. Most people have 4 parathyroid glands. However, the number can vary from 2 to 6. These glands are located on the posterior surface of the thyroid gland. The parathyroid gland produces parathyroid hormone. Parathyroid hormone increases blood calcium concentrations when calcium ion levels fall below normal. Above the kidney are the adrenal glands. The adrenal gland consists of an outer adrenal cortex and an inner adrenal medulla. These regions secrete different hormones. The adrenal cortex produces mineralocorticoids, glucocorticoids, and androgens. The main mineralocorticoid is aldosterone, which regulates the concentration of ions in urine, sweat, and saliva. Aldosterone released from the adrenal cortex is stimulated by a decrease in blood concentrations of sodium ions, blood volume, or blood pressure, or by an increase in blood potassium levels. The glucocorticoids maintain a proper blood glucose level between meals. They also control response to stress by increasing glucose synthesis from fats and proteins, and interact with epinephrine to cause vasoconstriction. Androgens are sex hormones that are produced in small amounts by the adrenal cortex. They do not normally affect sexual characteristics and may supplement sex hormones released from the gonads. The adrenal glands also produce epinephrine and norepinephrine. These cause immediate short-term changes in response to stressors, including the so-called fight or flight response. They can cause increased heart rate, breathing rate, cardiac muscle contractions, and blood glucose levels. They also accelerate the breakdown of glucose in skeletal muscles and stored fats in adipose tissue, and redirect blood flow towards skeletal muscles away from skin and viscera. Hormone production and release are often controlled by negative feedback. In this way, concentration of hormones in blood is maintained within a narrow range. Think about how this relates to our conversation on homeostasis. For example, the anterior pituitary signals the thyroid to release thyroid hormones. The increasing levels of these hormones in the blood then give feedback to the hypothalamus and anterior pituitary to inhibit further signaling to the thyroid gland.